What is up, people, and welcome back. Right, so I've had a lot of people say, like, where's the race car build? Where's the turbo build? So I thought I'd give you a quick update. Right, so I've literally dragged it out yesterday from up the corner. And me and my old man throwing some ideas around, bits and bobs, odds and sods. So what we've done, I'll give you, we've been tidying up as well, because this place was a right mess. And I've got a job coming down and I need the chassis table for that job. Right, so turbo engine is in, as you can see. But we had all the turbo and everything on it yesterday. So what I'll do is I'll insert that little bit of a photo for you now. Right, so as you can see, the turbo sits quite far out the front. So I took the compressor housing off and it pushes out on here. So it would fit there if I cut out below the bumper. But then you've got a lot of other issues, as in the wastegate is here. And we've run out of room to get any sort of pipes through. Hang on. The RC car batteries. I'm charging up the RC car batteries, the LiPos. So me and my son can take the cars out and turn all this off now. My old man's brought one as well. But anyway, so right, the turbo ideally cannot go there. We was chucking around the ideas because for me to have a side mount manifold made, it's expensive for me to have that done. But it looks like it's going to have to be done. Because if you put the turbo there, we haven't got room for anything else. So the turbo, I think, is going to have to go here, right? So the turbo is going to go there. But what we can see, we haven't got a lot of room to get the pipes through. Because basically, the manifolds are going to have to come from here and that way, right? Now, you could possibly go through that gap, right? There's plenty of room. Say if we went 4 into 2, 2 through the gap, 2 into 1 into the turbo. That's a possible way of doing it. But we're throwing some ideas around that if I nosedive this into the tyres at any sort of slow speed, the first thing to go is that £1,400 manifold. Because that's what I've been quoted by Bag Sport, he does some top job stuff. That £1,400 manifold is just going to get squished between the front end and that bar. So we threw this in yesterday. We didn't think it would fit this cradle because the cradle was on the old engine. Well, the old engine is now in that frame, because that's how that's going to be sold running. So it just clears this big clutch housing. I mean, clearance is clearance, but we're tight. I had to modify my tower slightly. I don't know whether you're going to see, but I had to slot it because this big clutch housing interfered. But I know that will be fine like that because the original one of these cars had a big hole there anyway. So anyway, we're off track. Basically, I'm going to have to build a whole new one of these frameworks. All of this, hang on, all of this black frame, we're going to make new. Basically, where this is the left-hand side of this bolt, it's going to go to the right-hand side. So it's going to come up, and this bend will be slightly further. And it's going to come around, down here. So then it's going to go down and in, right? And then the pipes are going to go behind it. So this tube, which is 1-inch CDS, 3mm wall, thick stuff, no, 2.65 wall, so it's thick stuff, is going to be this side. And then once the tubes are in, we're going to gusset it up. So this will act as a bumper for my expensive little manifold that we're going to have done. And if we do it that way, then my oil cooler can still stay here. and we might have the space here for a intercooler, and that I'm going to keep the original radiator set up. I might just have to upgrade the water pump, because these turbo engines run hotter because the oil's going through the hot turbo, warms the oil up, warms the engine up, warms the water up. And my little water pump I had on the NA engine works sweet. Kept it around, was it 90? I can't remember what it was now. 92, 95 I think, which is where the booster engine likes to be. But the fan comes in at like 104 I think. So it kept it at the perfect temperature. But I think this engine might need a bit more. So what we might do is run a David Craig pump. That way then I can have all AM fittings on the water system as well. And the pump, because this might not go back on this one, because I ran, my clutch slave was here. And that's for the reverse motor. Well, never used it. I never even put it on. So I made all this and never used it. So I might not put this back on the new one. And I'm going to modify an original cover for here with the original clutch slave on, because this had one originally. And the first time I used the car at Alton Park testing, snapped a brand new chain. It just ripped through that chain because it was a cheap chain, and it just destroyed it. Well, I've got one that came with the turbo engine, which is here. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify this to work on that engine. And it also had, you know, that extra support you can buy for the Hayabusa engine, this thing. Yeah, it went on there somewhere. So we're going to modify that so I can utilise an original case again, just to slim down things, if you know what I mean. So it's a lot less busy down there. So yeah, this frame's going to be made new, replaced. We'll be doing that on the channel, so you can see how it's made. It's very simple. It is really very simple. We've got the wood put there at the minute because we're going to have to take this off, and we don't want the engine to move. So we make the new one with the engine in the right place, because the sprockets have to be in line, yeah? So we don't want this engine to move when I'm making the new frame. Plus then I'll have the original frame as an original, and I might even replicate the subframe, because I've literally got subframes everywhere now. So if I replicate the subframe and I've got a cradle, I've got a spare booster setup. Do you understand what I mean? So that's just an idea we're chucking around. So yeah, that's where the booster is at the minute. This engine's got to come back out anyway, because I'm putting a new sump on it, because the oil return for the turbo is slightly no good. Literally, it's right behind that box section. So if I come down here, look. Yeah, so that's going to have to be changed. But with the turbo being up here, I can run it into either that port or that port without causing any oil. What did I call it? The reason they try and put, I didn't know why, that the turbo returns normally go in under the oil. So I asked my friend at MRM Speed Shop, who deals with a lot of turbo engines, and he said it goes under the oil so it doesn't, what was the word he said? It doesn't agitate the oil. Do you know, like when you're spraying water in a bucket and it goes in, you get all the bubbles, it stops that. It's more of a smooth flow. Well, if I go in the side there, that's not as bad because it's nowhere near the oil pickup. And in that casing, it will go straight in and hit the side of the engine and run down. So it's not as bad. And plus, that's a ball bearing turbo. So they only run very small oil pressure anyway. So the sump's got to come off because it does leak, and the oil hang on, I'll show you what I've got in my box. The oil pressure, the oil return. I'll tell you what, people, if you had noticed, I am terrible with words. The oil return is no good. In here we have, what's in this bag? This, which is an APE. You take the balance shaft out of them and you put in one of these APE crank balancer dummy shaft. Got the same in that one, because the balance shaft in these is to stop the vibrations on the bikes. Don't so much need them in a car, but they're weighted. They're like a crank lobe, not a lobe, a web. And it spins round to counteract the crank. They make it run smoother, but you're using horsepower to turn it. So you buy one of these for about 40 quid. This one was from SPA Suzuki Parts Spares. Then I spent some money at RLM. Got a upgraded shift spring and shift pin for on the end of the barrel in the gearbox. It makes it more assertive on your gears. And we also have a pair. You can see I haven't even opened this stuff. I've got these also in the other engine. These are ground billet shift rods. The Hayabusa shift rods, I will show you one now, because I've got, yeah, that's how I open my door. Dark in here, people. I have got boxes and boxes of old parts. So, what I can do, actually, if I get this out, this will be even better for you to understand what I'm talking about. Because here, I have a balance shaft. That's a balance shaft, right? So, let me just spin you around so it's easier. So, this is a balance shaft. And this spins round with the RPM of the engine to counteract the crank. Now that is quite meaty, yeah? And that takes horsepower to turn that, right? What else have we got in here? That's a shift drum, a good shift drum. These are the original shift rods up the hollow bar. Now these like to bow when you are shifting gears. So basically, say that's on your gear cluster. As you're trying to shift, it does this twists, which is why you get more wear on one side of your fork like that compared to the other, because it's going like that. Don't know if I've got the what's the names in this one. I think they're in the other one. I was going to show you the spring goes on there anyway. Well, the thing that goes on there, and this goes doot, 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 like that. But I think that's in the other bin. But yeah, you get the picture, right? And then we've also got a sump baffle, right? A lot of people say you need to run dry sumps on the busa. Ideally, yes. If you've got 1,500 quid, do it. Or 1,500 quid plus, because you've got to get the tank and everything. But I don't. I spoke to a lot of grass trackers, and my original engine was out of a grass tracker, and they all said, nah, son, get yourself a baffle plate, and you want to fill the oil to the top of the sight glass, to the very top, and then when it's running, you've got more oil in the engine, which will keep it below this baffle plate. And I've never had an issue, and that is 33 quid. Dry some kits, 1,500 quid. So the turbo is having one of these. Unless I can get a good price on a dry sum kit. I did miss out on one for 500 quid on eBay. That's what I run. So this has all got to go in there. I've got to check the gearbox on this, because it looks like a couple of the dogs are damaged. But I've got a full spare gearbox in there, upgraded one. So basically, we've got bits now, and we've got to start some fabrication to get the frame made to make space for the manifold. Then I've got to put the radiator back in. Basically, the car needs to be built up before it can go down to bag sport, so they've got everything they need where it needs to be. So we brought a few bits. You've seen where we are, and we're going to start making this probably in the next week or so, because this next job that's coming in needs to get done so we can get the job in after that. Because me doing the little jobs is what pays for my stuff. I try not to put any of my personal money into this place. It's all paid for by doing jobs. Right, there we go. There's your update on the race car, and we will get back onto it very soon. If you want me to go any deeper into anything, bang it in the comments. Comments are good for the algorithm. Share my videos. People see my videos. They get inspiration. They start cranking on them wrenches. And that's what it's all about. Right then. Thanks for watching. And I'll keep you updated. See you in the next one.